Hey, welcome to another episode of MVP Nerd Variety Podcast. I am Josh, and I'm joined today by Hunter Rich Kid Rafferty.
Yes. That is not me. I wish it was me. I wish I was weird.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Wrong Hunter. Can the real Hunter please come on the... I guess he's out somewhere. Anyway, and also we're joined by Hannah High on Life Hogan.
Among other things.
Greetings.
You don't sound very high
Still
on
not
life,
as
Hannah.
yeah. I don't know. It's a hoodie kind of day, you know. So,
That's what
but it does
stoners
help.
always say.
Is it hoodie weather out there? I don't know.
It's a little chilly. Well, and I'm in a room that used to be a base or a garage, so the
It looks
insulation's not
kind of
great.
chilly around you. There's not much.
Yeah, outside, in November.
Yeah.
All right. Well, today we are talking about, you probably had a hint from Hunter's background and maybe Hannah's, but we're talking about crossovers, crossover fiction. Crossovers are a high point in, a lot of media from back then and even so now. Who doesn't want to see their favorite characters meet up, hang out, beat
Kill
each other up?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hunter, I guess.
I mean, I feel like especially with
killing
like
each other.
I feel like
As
especially with
always.
superhero groups,
We'll
there
get
could be an
there.
element of like who's stronger, who would beat who in a fight. I feel like those are the kinds of questions we ask that can be answered with crossovers.
And, just wait
Yeah.
until we get mine. That's when we're going to get some of mine. That's when we're going to get to the kill each other thing. Spoilers.
Yeah. I think there's a certain media company that's capitalized on tearing down the dimensional wall between characters just so they can see who would win a fight to the death. Anyway, what are you guys' earliest exposure to crossovers?
Well, I remember hearing about like the DC Marvel crossover, which I can't remember if it's just been one or if it's happened more than once, but I at least remember hearing about it, and it took a long time before I actually looked it up, and then sadly, I've not gone too in depth into it, so I don't remember a lot of it, but that was probably one of the earlier things. Besides, if I were to say earliest, I would probably go video games at the arcades, with Marvel versus Capcom.
Yeah. Hannah?
Gosh, probably, I gotta say probably the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour on Nickelodeon.
Okay.
With
cool.
Fairly Odd Parents and Jimmy Neutron.
Okay, cool.
It was definitely later than the arcade stuff.
Well, I was homeschooled and
talking about for me.
Didn't leave my house and shut up.
Yeah. And we'll jump into specific types. From the earliest ones that I was researching on were like comics, of course, because TV wasn't really the biggest thing, or neither was video games. But comics, you had Superman meets Spider-Man. The Teen Titans met the X-Men. The Punisher met Archie, which I would love to see now, given how you have the Punisher show and you have Riverdale. But that would, I don't know. It's not a dream crossover. It would just be an interesting one.
Understandably.
Yeah. I'm now for video games. I'm not really sure which. I'm trying to think of which came first, the TV or the video games. But I think video games were probably one of the easier ways to have crossovers. Talking Smash Brothers, some fighting games.
Marvel versus Capcom.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. When did the...
Well, you're just to go on your note of video games, doing it, maybe I think they'd maybe do it best, or it's easiest for that, because it's kind of it's that kind of fictional thing. If you grew up with like toy figures, it's that whole thing of well, I have
Oh,
this
yeah.
one and this other one, and I'm gonna make them fight each other and see
I
which
feel
one can
like-
win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel
Okay,
like
yeah.
in video games you don't need a reason.
Yeah.
Where in like movies
Sometimes
and
you
TV shows,
have
it's
a
like,
reason.
how did this happen? How did we get here?
Mhm.
What is going on? And you have to like go into all that exposition.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah,
give you a
usually-
reason in some video games, but you can tell it's really thin.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Those company crossovers, they kind of they had the good idea to be like, we could bridge the gaps of people who like this character and this character because, hey, we own all these characters. So let's put them together and see what happens. And everyone will attract more customers or more players.
Kind of
Yeah.
sharing the fan base.
Oh, and one early crossover comes to mind. I think Godzilla versus Kong. I just watched that with some friends. Yeah, with some friends a few weeks ago, and it was insane. Of course, you don't have the CG effects. You know, it's spoiler. It's two guys fighting in suits. If you didn't know. Yeah, I'm
What?
sorry. Yeah.
No. Oh my god. Ruined.
But it's still pretty epic to watch. And looking forward to the 2020 version, or not 20. I don't know,
Is it
2020, but the new version. They're going to make a new one
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
soon.
I was pretty much purely a PC gamer at my house in the early years, and again, homeschooled, didn't really get out much, so I never really even played fighting games. I think the first fighting game I ever played was Super Smash Brothers, and that was like high
Yeah.
school or college.
Yeah. I was never too good at fighting games, I didn't think. Still don't think I really am, but I love Mortal Kombat to death. And I think a large part of that is just because of the arcades. And they weren't even necessarily like full arcades, but I remember like I was always so excited when we went to like a restaurant that had a little arcade section somewhere, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to go play. And
Even
Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was my game. That was my go-to when it was there.
Even when we went to restaurants with arcade sections, my parents were like, no. I think probably because there were 4 of us, and if each of us wanted, $5 in quarters, that gets expensive quickly.
Yeah.
So
You guys are y'all are typical 80s 90s kids, which are pizza restaurant with the family going to the arcade. Yeah.
Well, what I
stuff.
remember instead of the pizza ones, weirdly enough, is I feel like I remember that happening more in Fuddruckers.
I used to think that was a bad word.
Me too.
I
You just gotta
remember
switch the R and the F.
TVBs, I think,
Yeah.
mostly.
I've never actually been in a Fuddruckers though.
Yeah, you have.
I don't think I have either.
Have?
Josh, I'm pretty sure you have because I'm pretty sure you
We're
went
getting
with
off
us
topic.
after the camping trip.
I feel like
We're
I would
getting off topic.
remember
We're
it,
getting
but
off
we can also talk about this later.
Yeah.
You can remind me of where I haven't been.
Okay.
Thank you. But let's talk TV crossovers. Hannah was going into the
Jimmy
I think
Kimmy
one of
Power
the
Hour?
that was one of the earliest ones I remember growing up. Ones that was like burned into my head.
Mm-hmm.
I was I think it was in middle school when it came out, and I wanted to watch it because when I seen the ads for it, but I had a church thing to go to. But I was able to catch it when I got back home, and it was just mind blowing.
Oh yeah, it was amazing.
Especially how they switched animation, or they made the character fit into the animation of the show that they're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? And sorry if I can. Hannah, I'll let you talk on that again if you want.
Oh, I didn't have much to say about it. I honestly was trying to remember everything about it, but I remember there were like 3 of them, and it's just been a long time. But I remember, I think if you were in middle school, I feel like I was in like late elementary school.
Yeah, I was. I don't know, either elementary or middle school.
I think I was in late elementary school.
Yeah, 2003, 2004
Yeah.
was when it came out.
So it depends.
So I was
actually,
9.
that would have been middle school. Elementary school. 2003 or 2004.
Yeah.
That would have been elementary school.
But I don't recall. I don't recall having a lot of TV back when I was a kid. We mostly had like VHS tapes and stuff, and so I remember being very excited when we got cable and we started watching TV, and then we were able to catch that. I think we caught it like when it premiered,
Nice.
and just being very excited about it because
Yeah,
we
it
loved
was exciting.
those two shows. They're
Oh
probably
yeah, they're
our favorite
great
ones.
shows. Yeah,
Yeah, I
they
love
didn't.
them.
They didn't really keep up the trend of doing it too much until I think maybe years down the road. Excuse me, years down the road where they I think Nick's probably done a few more crossovers. They even made a crossover game with their characters.
I
It was
know.
May 2004. Sorry, that was driving me crazy.
Okay, so
Ah,
yeah, I would have
yep.
been 9.
I would have been in 4th grade. Well, just about to graduate 4th grade. Sorry.
Yeah, but I do think Nickelodeon and Disney have come up with a lot of crossovers since then. I
Mhm.
haven't seen any of them because I haven't been interested in the shows, but I know that they've come up with, I think especially with their live action stuff, have
They
a
also
lot
did
of
a lot.
crossovers.
They also did some of their animation.
Did
I
they?
remember. Yeah, I think they had Lilo and Stitch show hopping for a while.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, so
Well,
it's
and
definitely something
actually,
to check out.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure this was even before the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour, but I do remember Rugrats meets Wild Thornberries.
Yeah,
See, I
that
never
was a
watched
movie.
either of those shows.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
My parents
shows
did
were-
not let us watch
Those shows
Rugrats.
were great. Right up there with Hey Arnold.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
But
Hannah.
I do remember that movie coming out now. I think it was within the same time frame of probably a couple of years later than after the Power Hour. And that was an interesting movie, seeing them they didn't really have to do too much to change the I think they made the animation work for both of them instead of putting them in their own, sketches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
But,
the animation for those kinds of shows, like to me, those 3 that I mentioned, I know Hey Arnold, I don't think had a crossover with him, but they all seem to have pretty similar art styles.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
specifically remember cracking up when during Jimmy Timmy Power when Jimmy goes into To Be Sword and he's like, I'm 2-dimensional,
Mhm.
right? And like
He
commenting
falls
on the different art styles, I was just very tickled by that.
Yeah, he like falls over like
Mhm.
flat.
Like
It's
he's
like,
a
oh
piece of
yeah,
cardboard.
it's, yeah,
It's really
literally.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About your background there, I'm pretty sure the Doctor has had crossovers, but with himself. I
Well,
guess we can count that as a crossover.
yeah. I don't know if I would consider it a crossover. I actually have like a small list of things that I'm like, is this a crossover? But definitely like there's some intricacies there with like time travel and all this stuff. And even if you don't really consider them crossovers, I feel like there's a lot of potential for crossovers.
Yeah.
Which I would be interested in exploring. But I don't think there's any, I don't know, maybe from the older series, but I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I mean, I personally wouldn't consider those kinds of things that they have done crossovers, since it's within the same universe. It's, just with other versions of the Doctor, and they're not going and finding characters from other shows, at least not as far as I'm aware.
And there's some stuff where it's like kind of getting into a weird realm of like, is this a crossover when you have sort of spawn-off TV series like whatever Sarah Jane Smith's show is called, I can't remember, and Torchwood, both kind of spun off of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So it's like, is that a crossover or is it a spin-off?
Right.
And if they get back together later, is it then a crossover? It was just a little unclear.
Can I take a point from there and
Go for it.
just bring it in the context of some other things that I would consider definite crossovers? I don't think there's any debate, but like the CW shows, like Flash.
Yeah.
Barry Allen technically started. He first appeared in as he is in the Flash show in Arrow. And then, so that wasn't really a crossover when he was first introduced, because the Flash wasn't a show at that point.
Right.
But then, once he did get his own show and became a superhero and everything, did his own stuff, then he came back for what they officially announced as crossovers with Arrow and the Flash, and then obviously it grew from there. So
yeah, I think that also gets in a weird gray area, because I feel like I'm not super familiar with those two series, but I think the Flash and Green Arrow like interact a good bit actually. Because they do exist on the same version of Earth, right? But then they're pulling in like Supergirl, and she's from a different version of Earth, and so that feels like more of a crossover.
Yeah,
and I was
but it's all part of the same event. It's
It became it was definitely stretched when they did the I think in Supergirl's first season they had Flash show up in her like next to last episode for that first season because the same guy was spearheading both shows, so they made it work, and they just you know. Yeah, and then they made it work, and then they folded her in whenever she moved to the CW because she was on CBS first.
Yeah. Well, and I even wanted to talk about, because I looked up, Googled best crossovers in movies and TV and all this stuff, and one of the ones that keeps coming up is Avengers, and I'm like, does that count?
I was actually gonna kind of bring that up as well, just like the MCU in general, and I can see it for at least up to the Avengers. After that point, it really became like its own thing that I would kind of stop considering crossovers, but definitely for the first, I don't even remember how many, like 5 or 6 movies probably. Leading into the Avengers, because you had
first 5 movies, and then first 5, and then Avengers, and and that was a big deal because originally those types of movies didn't, they made little nods and little jokes about other characters, little Easter eggs, but there was never a build up to anything else. But in this one, they had to plant the seeds pretty early in the first movie, and then some more in the second, and keep adding those things in, putting in similar characters, and showing that yes, they're all connected. They're all going to show up together on screen. And then after they showed up on screen together, they were, it was showing, yes, this is all one universe, and we're going to keep it going from there.
Well, and that actually makes me want to ask a question about crossovers that I don't think we'll ever really get the answer to, which is, I wonder if it comes down to like intent. Like if you're planning on everyone meeting up at the end, does that count as a crossover if that was the goal from the beginning, or is it something that has to be spawned naturally, like Fairly Odd Parents and Jimmy Neutron, that like, hey, these would go well together, let's do it? Do we need to put those in different categories? I don't know.
I think it's just become a different thing.
I think so. Yeah, there's a like a show crossing over with another show that the shows never met in real life, or they don't really plan to do it too often, or they don't plan to do it much after that. They'll be like, okay, this is a crossover, this is a limited time event, or one time thing, one time only thing, and they make it happen, and it works, and it's awesome, and school's like, oh cool, that's cool. But back to our usual stuff. But then you have the other shows that build their way up to crossing over, and then after that it's not so much a crossover, it's just
kind of a
collection of stories, or
it shows, because it shows us all in one, they're all on the same plane of existence, so to speak.
And I think for the comic book stuff, for the MCU, it made a lot of sense, because you can tell how heavily just the structure is being based on the comic books, because that's kind of how comic books worked. Although I'm sure those were a little more, to me at least starting off, it may have been a little more natural, like not necessarily planned far in the future, but like, these characters all exist in the same universe. What if their paths happen to cross? That would kind of make sense.
Well, and the interesting thing about the movie MCU is, like, we actually have no idea if it started out that way, because like the way we see the MCU now is definitely like we have plans and plans and plans. But like when they started Iron Man 1, were they expecting all of this to happen?
I think they were. Yeah, but I can't remember for sure.
They didn't have a lot of high hopes because of the movies they were starting with, but they planned, like, okay, we're gonna put the your Easter eggs and
I definitely
nods and stuff here in here, and then as we start getting some success, okay, let's keep the ball rolling here. Let's keep adding more.
I definitely don't think they ever expected it to be as big as they made it. At least not.
I'm sure
at the
they
beginning.
hoped.
Well, sure.
Yeah, they hoped.
But I know, like, Iron Man was
start
vastly
working.
more popular than they were
Yeah.
expected.
And I think
Yeah, yeah.
I can't remember. Josh, do you remember, or Hannah, do you remember what the post-credit scene for Iron Man was?
I
Yeah,
did
it was
not.
Was
It
that
was
Nick
Fury.
Fury coming in?
That's right.
Okay, well then, yeah. So they did definitely plan it from the beginning of there, or maybe it was more of a testing and see the reaction of audiences. But I feel like I remember hearing that it was originally planned to lead into the Avengers.
But then back then, no one really knew where it was. Where no one was really expecting a post-credit scene.
No.
Yeah.
So
now they've fundamentally changed the way people go to the movies.
oh my god, yeah, that's terrible. It's
That's
really
why
terrible.
Single-handedly.
That's why now people start walking out when the credits start. You're like, "What are you doing?
What are you doing?
It's not over yet."
Where are you
Or
going?
why
What
are
are you
you-
in such a hurry for?
Or the reverse of why are you sitting down? Is there a post-credit scene? Right? No, this is a one-time movie. This isn't gonna.
Yeah.
But okay, and then you walk out because you've been trained to expect something.
I think that I went to correct. I might be wrong about this, but I think I went to the Power Rangers movie, and they had like a post-credit scene. But they might be making a second one. Anyway,
It was a.
We're getting very off topic.
I don't know.
Yeah.
getting off topic again.
Are you guys aware that they were working on Monsters universe?
Monsters.
Monsters, yeah.
Like Monsters Inc. Or
No. Monsters as in.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I did like the Mummy and that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
mhm,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
did know
Mummy,
about
Frankenstein.
Oh, I did not know about that.
that. Yeah.
A lot of other monsters. The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of
Oh, well,
some
they
others.
are doing the Invisible Man
where-
soon, aren't they? I think I saw a trailer for that the other day.
I don't know. I don't know anymore. I know from the Mummy was supposed to be the beginning of it. So they had Russell Crowe playing Dr. Jekyll and Hyde. You didn't see too much of him, but I think he had his cameo, his Easter egg room where he had a Frankenstein. I think it's something with Frankenstein regarding Frankenstein, something regarding the Invisible Man, something regarding a werewolf. It was something that they were planning to do, but I think it all stemmed from the Mummy taking off.
Yeah, and my understanding is the Mummy didn't really take off that much. Was it a flop? Was it like a major flop? I don't really know.
I can't remember. I've been meaning to watch it, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah. It was,
Because,
even from the beginning, it wasn't anything that I was really interested in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But,
I don't know if any... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, sorry. I know this kind of conversation has been done to death, so I won't go too into it. But, talking about the MCU stuff, I also made a note when I was going through this earlier. MCU, they've done it really well. And, I think they did have it planned from the beginning. And they, obviously, as Hannah's thing is kind of an attest to, it really wasn't entirely obvious unless you were kind of in the know. And I think that plays in favor of Marvel and just shows their strengths over DC in the film universe right now, because you got the DCEU, which they didn't really build it much. They're like, hey, let's do a Superman movie. Hey, let's do a Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman movie after that. And then let's do Justice League. And no,
DC
way too fast.
has got to stay in their lane, man.
I know.
They're good at TV shows and animated stuff.
Yeah.
That's
And then
what
they
they should
just
be
went
doing.
straight into Suicide Squad without building any of those characters. And I think that's a major reason why it did so poorly.
We're so off topic.
No, that's perfectly on topic.
But look at DC TV. They've done a good job of doing the crossover thing, kind of following the same pattern as Marvel did. But it works. It was worked out on the small screen pretty well.
Yeah.
And now they have their own, super crisis war event coming up. Infinite Crisis on Infinite Earths next week or in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah.
But I think I think maybe my understanding of it is they didn't really plan it out too much in the the shows, and I think that's why it felt more natural. And went a little smoother into transition there. Whereas the movies, they're just like, look what Marvel's doing. We got to get on that.
Yeah, let's do that too. But you gotta,
But faster.
I guess, you gotta set a good tone, and you have to make sure you can get someone to watch one or two of the original movies you make of one series that you make, and then they'll maybe they'll watch this other series that we make too.
Yeah.
Or if you just plan to do one big, let's throw everything on the table after, but you know what each one is first.
Yeah,
Like,
and I think that's why crossovers work, because you're familiar with the characters separately. You get to understand them separately first, and then you see them as a team. Which, a lot of people should know DC characters, in my opinion, and I'm familiar with them. But that doesn't mean that if you're starting out with origin movies, you can just kind of skip them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, have you guys watched the Kong? I think it was the new King Kong. The newest
I haven't
one.
watched any of those.
Okay.
I haven't seen Godzilla.
The one that came out this year.
The last Godzilla I saw was like from 2000.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ew, that was the bad one, man.
I'm not too different.
Okay.
I don't even know that I saw the Peter Jackson King Kong.
Oh, well, I mean, that one
and
was
I know
good.
That's not related, but I don't know the last King Kong movie I watched.
Yeah. Yeah, you have Kong Skull Island. You have Kong Skull Island. You have Godzilla King of the Monsters. I'm not sure if it's a sequel to the 2014 Godzilla.
I was thinking it was, but I don't know.
It probably is, but probably a loose sequel. But that's what's going to combine to make Godzilla versus Kong coming out in a couple of years or next year. I don't know.
Hannah, you look like you got something to say?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think I have
point.
seen Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Okay,
I think that's the last one I've seen.
I've at least seen clips from it. But
Yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling to not say that if you've seen one King Kong movie that you've seen them all.
But it's a giant monster.
Same thing with Godzilla. I think I did see a Godzilla movie not that long ago, and it was exactly what I expected it to be. Let's say that.
Yeah.
And to me, it's kind of like along the lines of what's the other giant monsters? The Monsters versus Robot thing? Pacific Rim.
Oh, Pacific Rim. Yeah.
Like I saw there were two of those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the first one. And I'm like, I really enjoyed this movie, but it was just kind of mindless fun. It was giant monsters versus giant robots.
I imagine there's people out there who say the same thing about the MCU. They're like, yeah, they're all exactly what I expect them to be. And I'm sure there's people out there who just love the King Kong and Godzilla movies and are like, they're great, but not for me.
They just love Kong doing what he does best and Godzilla doing what he does best.
Yep.
Fighting each other.
Right, or destroying massive populated areas and doing their triumphant roar or their atomic or releasing their atomic breath on something.
Yep. If that's your thing, no judgment here.
That's your thing, man. Hey, go for it. Yeah.
No judgment from us puny earthlings.
Nope.
Yeah. I also want to throw out some honorable mentions for crossovers. The Power Rangers versus meeting the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I've heard of that, but I'm not familiar now.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it. I remember the Turtles doing a crossover with someone. Maybe it was them. I was thinking it was someone else, but I don't know.
They met when this is back when you had your early '90s Power Rangers, and you had the suited turtles meeting, and I think they met at least once, but it looked like a fun crossover of just them.
It sounds fun.
It's kind of like a prelude to your early TV Arrowverse crossovers.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was
Yeah.
almost going to say, or I will say, if you want to talk real old school TV crossovers, go with so many Scooby-Doo meets Harlem
Oh yeah.
Globetrotters,
Yep.
whoever.
Well, and I was actually going to mention a more recent one from season freaking 13 of Supernatural, where they get
Hmm.
pulled into an episode of Scooby-Doo and the entire episode is animated, and I
Oh,
just
nice.
rewatched it and it's fantastic.
That's season
So
13 of Supernatural, right?
Yeah.
no,
Okay. Okay.
season
Yeah.
frickin' 13. That's
Freaking
different.
13.
That's different
They've
from
been
season
doing
13.
they've been doing Supernatural for so long, man.
Yeah, it's finally ending now.
Yeah.
Which
Jensen
so much.
Ackles has wrinkles on his perfect face. It's very sad.
Yeah, they got old after 14 years.
Yeah.
Speaking of old shows that did crossovers, you can also include a few like from The Simpsons. They did I think one crossover with Family Guy and another with Futurama. But Futurama and
I remember the
Simpsons
Family
are
Guy episode.
Matt Groening.
Yeah, I remember the Family Guy one. I didn't remember Futurama and Simpsons, but with the same creator,
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah. And it was just after Futurama ended.
Okay.
I did have one more thing on my list of is this a crossover? Which is Space Jam.
Ooh.
Maybe. I probably wouldn't say not really.
Because again, it was on
What's
like
it a
all of the best
crossover-
crossover lists.
What is it a crossover with?
I mean, Bugs Bunny
NBA.
crossing over to us.
Yeah.
NBA with I can't consider it crossover.
Yeah, I consider crossovers a fictional world crossing over with another fictional world.
But you can count Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
Mhm.
I think. Am I right?
Who do
Wrong?
they cross over with?
No, the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That was
Yeah.
essentially a big crossover movie with, all the which are Disney and Warner Brothers cartoons.
Mhm.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it in a long time.
Yeah.
well, go watch it. It's great.
I thought those were all original characters, but maybe I just don't
I
remember
mean,
it.
Disney. Well, you have some original characters. You have Disney and Warner Brothers characters. Like Mickey and Bugs Bunny share the screen for the exact for about a minute and a half, and they share the same amount of dialogue because otherwise one studio would have been mad at the other.
Really there are only a handful of the animated characters that I remember from that movie, and that's Roger Rabbit, Jessica Rabbit, and there's a car that I can't remember the name of, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to go watch it again.
I think it's on Disney Plus.
Well, I don't have that.
Well, I do.
Neither
Well,
do
actually,
I.
no, I don't. I'm using Philip's account, but
Yeah.
Disney's gonna find out.
Yeah, I'm currently paying for DC Universe, so.
Oh crap! Me too.
Yeah, same here.
So it's got to be one or the other, and maybe when I get done with DC, I'll switch over, but we'll see.
Yeah, we're at that point where you have to count your subscriptions, and
I think the season finale of Titans comes out this Friday, so then maybe I'll switch over.
Yeah, did you see the whole Nightwing thing?
Yes.
He's finally suiting up. We'll see how that ends.
I'm fully up to date.
I am not up to date at all. I've still only seen the first episode, but anyways, that's another topic. I had a couple little honorable mentions of things that I wanted to bring up.
I have fun.
Game crossovers.
Okay, good.
Real quick, I was going to mention Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe, which was not great. It was kind of interesting. They did it better later, I think, when certain characters crossed over for DLC. But and then a game that neither of you, I'm sure, are familiar with, nor their crossovers. Heroes of the Storm. Hannah, I briefly mentioned it to you the other day, but it's like a collection of all the. It's a MOBA of all the Blizzard universes. So you got Overwatch, Diablo, Warcraft, and Starcraft. And they're just kind of all mixed and matched, and it's wonderful, I think.
Hannah, honorable mention.
My honorable mention's kind of a weird one. So in Star Trek the original series, there's an episode called Trouble with Tribbles where they have to deal with these little floofy balls that are like mass reproducing. And in Deep Space Nine, they actually send some characters back to that time to like figure out what was going on, and they used clips from the original show and like sort of inserted their characters, and it was really cleverly done. Like years after the original series came out, they kind of went back and did it, and I just thought it was really cool, and I really enjoyed those episodes as a kid.
Interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
You got any more honorable mentions, Josh? I know you said one earlier.
I'm fresh out actually. But I want to bring up our last topic, our last question, excuse me, for our topic. Your dream crossover. It could be as simple as a comic, or it can be a whole movie trilogy or whatever.
Or game.
So let it be known that Josh sprung this on us like 10 minutes before we started recording. So these are not super well thought out responses.
Yeah.
But for me, I would say Doctor Who in just about anything. I'd be happy to have him. I know the internet would especially love Doctor Who and Supernatural or something like that happening.
Would you want to see him animated?
Absolutely. Totally. Yeah. Just any way I can get more Doctor Who material, I'm down. But I also feel like because of the whole time travel, alternate dimensions kind of stuff, there's a lot of potential for that to be easily worked into the why and how, which is good.
Yeah.
What about you, Josh? You got one?
Mine is a video game, Dragon Ball versus Mortal Kombat.
That's nice.
That'd be cool.
I think that will be very fun. Give us a chance to really let the Dragon Ball characters be very violent as they were as they are in the anime sometimes. And it would just be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I would obviously want to just poke holes in that because it's like they have very different ideas of power. So shooting giant beams that destroy the world, it might not be all that good against a guy who kind of shoots fire out of his mouth and has a spear.
Yeah. But you think, Goku or Vegeta especially will be down with killing people. Goku will be fine with just fighting, but he's like, okay, yeah, I'll kill you. Sure, no problem.
He's like that sometimes, but no,
sometimes
that's very much up the alley that I was thinking. So my dream crossover, again, this was kind of on the spot, but Star Wars and Mortal Kombat. I would kind of love to see that.
I don't know. Oh wow, that'd be weird. It'd be really weird.
It'd be weird.
I think it'd be interesting because I don't feel like there's a ton of varied fighting styles in Star Wars. It's like you have a gun, or you do some hand-to-hand stuff, or a lightsaber.
There really are, I think. But I've also delved way deep into the Star Wars expanded universe.
Yeah, and definitely some of the more obscure characters. Like it'd be super fun to play as, I'm gonna say his name wrong, General Grievous. Grievous.
He'll be. I could see him.
I
could see him in there.
Don't know how to say his name.
I could see him in there.
But yeah, I mean, there's definitely also different. Like just within the Jedi and the Sith orders, there's the teachings. They have different stances, different lightsaber stances, and all that.
Yeah, but I feel like if you're comparing it to Mortal Kombat, where people have like different abilities.
Yeah, and they definitely have a lot of different stances in more based in probably real world. But yeah, so it's mine.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll be down to watch any of those or play any of those crossovers. But we're low on time here. Thanks you guys. Thanks for listening, guys, girls, nerds. What is the topic for next week?
Next week, we are talking about, we're getting into December, so we're going to be talking about favorite Christmas movies with subtitle, Is This a Christmas Movie? So we'll be talking about Die Hard, Nightmare Before Christmas, stuff like that.
All right, festive. Cool. Well, thanks for listening again. I'm Josh signing off, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Yep.